Good afternoon, everyone. I'm leaving this message for people in the Canadian Disability Alliance. There's been a lot of talk on the group currently right now about developing a living wage for people with disabilities. This has been an idea that's been floated many times in Canada and probably in other parts of the world. I think it's a fabulous idea that needs to actually come to light. So, what I would like to propose is that members of the Canadian Disability Alliance that are concerned about this issue and want to work on developing a policy framework to convince not only the federal government uh, but also provincial governments of the importance of everyone having a living wage, what some of the pros and cons of that policy would be, how we could get business and other community leaders involved. There's a lot of positive aspects. A couple that come to my mind right away is that by establishing a living wage, you're eliminating poverty in many cases from people with disabilities. We all know that people with disabilities predominantly live in poverty. This shouldn't be the way because people with disabilities did not deserve to have their economic status tied to their physical or mental health. And that Canada needs to recognize that people with disabilities have these issues and continue to still do their best to thrive and survive. So, the other, I think, important issue is that you don't want children growing up in poverty. And if people with disabilities are having kids, I'm a father myself. If they live in poverty, their children grow up in poverty. That's not fair to them. It doesn't allow them to find their own way in life. So, one of the things that I would like to see is that a living wage allows for generational poverty to end. I think that people with disabilities need the opportunity to continue to find work, and part of this program, I believe, would also include people with disabilities that enter a living wage policy would also have the ability to develop their skills in order to get a job where they would no longer need a living wage. So promote them to actually getting work by helping them through developing good resumes, developing contacts within the business community to get jobs, to develop skills, maybe go back to school and get an education in a particular field or trade that would allow them to get employment. But to be able to do that, you need money. To be able to do that, you need to afford tuition or to afford apprenticeships. So all this stuff can be done if we want to, tackle this great issue. One of the biggest issues that faces Canada right now is there's a hiring gap. People with disabilities are underemployed. And we always talk about people concerned about immigrants coming into Canada. I'm not opposed to immigration at all. I think immigration's a good thing. But I also think that we have an untapped workforce in the disabled that is better suited to work if given the opportunities. But this requires things like accommodation policies in in organizations and companies that are willing to hire people with disabilities. But having a living wage to start off with, while you're developing these skills or developing these tools, is critical to helping people with disabilities get out of poverty. A living wage is not just a policy that stands on its own. A living wage is the beginning of a foundational policy to change the lives of people with disabilities and others. I hope that anyone who sees this video or, you know, believes in a living wage will help us develop a policy that we can present to decision makers both at the federal and provincial level. I think it's highly important. For those that have brought up the living wage idea in the Canadian Disability Alliance, I want to thank all those that have involved themselves in the conversation. For those that want to get involved, please get in touch with me and I'd be happy to work with any member of the CDA that wants to help. These are important issues that need to be addressed, and working together we're always a bit stronger than working separately on these issues. Anyway, everyone have a good day. Thank you very much for your attention, and I appreciate your time. Bye-bye.